Alright, what's up guys? My name's D Money. Today we're going to be doing something really special I've wanted to do for a while, which is my first home kitchen cooking video documentary. Today we're going to be making Oriental Eastern style, somewhat, stir-fry ribeye steak. And I started the inspiration for this when I saw this pack of ribeyes was on sale, $27.24 for 2.8 pounds, which is almost half price to what they usually cost. It's not every day that you can get these ribeyes for half price. These are close to their expiration date, so they sell them half price to get them off the shelf faster. Actually, the quality is not much different from any other ribeye that you would get at the same store, but they're trying to get rid of them to close out, which makes it a great deal for me. The first thing I'm going to do is go over my ingredients. I already have water boiling on the stove, and I've got the stove preheating to 500 degrees, and that's going to be preparation to cook the rice and the second step of cooking the ribeyes in the oven after they're fried in butter in the pan. So there's a lot of steps to this recipe. I have never attempted this before. I've done the rice by itself and I've done the steak, but this is kind of a traditional recipe that I used to have when I was growing up. White onion, zucchini squash. We've got Three Dragons sizzling stir-fry sauce, which is a mix: soy sauce, a little bit of wine, a little bit of secret ingredient spices, a little bit of ginger and garlic, and a little bit of sesame. We've got our Weber Chop House butter seasoning, which is the seasoning I use to fry my steak, which is mostly butter and salt and garlic flavor. We got 2 brown organic eggs, and we also have the white sauce, which is notoriously hard to imitate. If it's like one of those fancy Japanese restaurants, they have this white mayonnaise sauce. Well, I couldn't find any Eastern style, so this is Hidden Valley Ranch secret sauce, which is kind of like the white mayonnaise that they use in a hibachi grill steak. Before I get started with the cooking, treated myself to one Michelob Ultra, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour that out and get started on it, kind of like an appetizer, because when I'm cooking I always, like, it makes me hungry, and I haven't eaten anything all day today. I've got my appetite up because this is a really nice dish, one of my favorite dishes. So it's better if you have an empty stomach, because you're gonna be hungry and it's gonna make you want to eat it when you smell all this stuff coming off. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I've got center cut bacon right here, and I'm going to take 3 strips of bacon and fry them in this pan. After the bacon's cooked, then the steak is going to cook in the bacon grease and the butter. So I've got my kitchen knife right here. I'm going to go ahead and cut into this bacon. Probably need to give my hands a little bit more wash on my hands, just to make sure we're all cleaned up and ready to go here. And we're going to go ahead and wash off our white onion and our zucchini too, because they just came off the shelf, and you want to give them a little wash before you start the cooking. So here's our bacon. I'm just going to start up the burner. I have a gas stove, so I use this little lighter with an extended, whatever that is, and that lets me light the burner. When I turn the gas on, I use the lighter to ignite the stove here. This bacon's a little bit sticky, so just trying to kind of peel it out of the pack here. It's all stuck together. It's really gooey and fatty, but that's how we want it. What makes this so good is all the fat and grease from the steak, the butter, and the spices and the vegetables all kind of just like mixed together into this kind of stew. And it's going to have a really complicated flavor profile. The main focus is the steak, and everything else is kind of built around the steak. My hand's another quick wash here. Dry it off with a towel. Our steak's already sizzling, so I'm gonna get in here. I've got my phone for another camera angle. Just look at this stuff up close. Alright, so here's our steak already kind of sizzling up in that pan. And we're going to just kind of start to kind of poke it around and get those surface kind of evenly cooked and evenly heated to get just the right amount of crisp for our steak. We don't want to cook it too much because then it's going to get brown and black and crusty. It has to be just the right amount so that it's cooked, but it's not just like burnt crumbles of steak. Our rice water here is kind of boiling out of control, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit and move it off the burner. This is a metal handle, so this gets really hot, so I have to use oven mitts when I'm handling it. When I'm handling this pot, I have to use the oven mitt, or that metal handle will burn me, and I use the oven mitts also to handle anything that's too hot. The instructions say cook the success rice for about 10 minutes in boiling water. So I've got my watch. I'm just going to take note of the time, and then in about 10 minutes it'll be ready to finish. Or it'll be boiled at that point. There's our rice in the water. Bacon's still kind of coming along here. The bacon grease mixes with the butter to make the right solution for cooking the steak in the stir fry in. Actually, you usually use vegetable oil or sesame oil when you're cooking this kind of stir fry, but you don't really need to. The butter by itself, if we were just using the butter, it would probably burn. So the bacon grease helps keep the butter from burning, and it also adds a little bit more flavor to the oil that we're cooking in. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting the steak ready, get it out of the package and kind of plated. Well, I'm gonna just pick it up with my hand and drop it in when it's ready. And then I use this spatula and fork. The spatula and fork to flip the bacon and to flip the steak. The steak cooks like the bacon, it flips between both sides. I'm gonna be cooking this steak a little bit hotter than medium rare, a little bit more rare than medium rare, but I still want it to have a little bit of juiciness and a little bit of blood in the middle, because that's the best part about steak, is the crunchy crust on the outside, and then you've got the little bit raw in the middle, so it's like two different flavors. But it's all going to come along. Not sure what kind of material this pan is. One of my friends said the cast iron pans are the best. I don't think it really matters. As long as you kind of eyeball everything and kind of get a practical understanding of like how this stuff heats up. Like if you don't cook the rice enough, then your rice is going to be crunchy. But if you cook the rice too much, then it gets like all gooey and sloppy, like it's just like congealed like that. So you want to get right in that sweet spot. So I'm paying really close attention to kind of, make sure I'm stirring the rice around and cook it for 10 minutes like the directions say. The water's not boiling now, so I'm going to put it back on the burner and heat it up. But if it gets too hot, it'll kind of like overflow out of the pot and make a big mess. So you kind of have to just keep it in that sweet spot of temperature, and that's what you need a little bit more skill before you attempt this, like trying to do everything at the same time. Ooh, almost singed myself on the gas burner there. Looks like the steak's just about done. So what we're gonna do with this, well, the bacon, I said the steak, this is the bacon. It looks like the bacon's just about done. So what we're gonna do with this bacon is we're gonna take it out of the pan and set it in a dish, save it for later, because we're gonna be adding it back to the mix, but right now we need this pan to cook our steak. So here's our bacon. Look at all that. Got a nice little puddle of bacon grease going here. And we're going to cut off a little bit of butter, a generous amount of butter. This is challenge butter. I think it was also on like 50% off, close to the expiration date. So we're going to get a big hunk of butter like that. And that's just going to go in the pan. It's going to start sizzling and make a base for us to cook our steak in evenly. The steak is just like taking a bath in this sizzling bacon grease and butter. and it's going to get boiling hot and just toast the outside of the steak, make kind of like a butter grease crust. And the more you cook it, the more the crust kind of thickens, and that's what the oven is for. The oven we've got preheating right now. After the steak's done cooking in the pan, it's going to go to the oven, and that's going to make that outside crust just thicken up and harden up a little bit. You know, thicken up and harden up a little bit. So we've got crunchy stuff and gooey stuff, like more different textures going on in the mix. I've got here my cutting board, and I'm going to start cutting my bacon into little pieces because we're going to add it back into the stir fry later. But we're going to have bacon and, you know, bacon bits and onions and little bits of zucchini, kind of all mixed up together. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just kind of like breaking it down into little bits. Let's check on our steak. We're going to go ahead and flip it over. Let me grab my phone again and get another close-up shot here. So yeah, here's our steak in the pan. You'll know it's getting close to done when it gets that, it's going to get that orange kind of brown color on the outside. And we're going to cut it open with the steak knife when it's close to getting finished. Check the inside of the steak, and we want it to be just a little bit pink on the inside, like kind of medium rare, like between medium rare and medium. Again, it doesn't have to be totally perfect, but you want it to be like, you know, you want to be shooting for like medium rare to medium. So in my opinion, that's the best way to cook a steak. If somebody likes it well done, you know, that's like a particular thing that they have. Go ahead and flip our steak again. Rice is getting closer. The rice, another 3 or 4 minutes, and it'll be ready to take the rice off of the boiler. And now I'm going to add more butter on top of the steak and some of this Weber Chop House butter seasoning, and that's going to help it really like crust up on the outside with that butter crust kind of drooling all over it like this. Just taking a bath in butter. Rub it in a little bit like it's a rub, and I'm kind of mixing around. You know, mixing around the grease to keep it all one consistency. Needs a little bit more heat. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. It's got that sizzle going. And before I start the stir fry, I might actually pour a little bit of this grease off because there's a lot of grease. It might almost be too much grease. And it's all going to soak into the rice and the vegetables when we start the stir fry. Give another little stir for our rice here. Alright, this side's looking close to being done. Have to get my phone to get another close-up shot of this beautiful brown and orange crusted steak. So yeah, keep the grease bubbling. And a little bit more butter on top. Can't have too much butter with this dish because that's the best part. Like, that's one of the best flavors. Almost forgot to add the Chop House butter seasoning, and that's also going to kind of go around in the grease too. A little bit of it, a little bit on top, a little bit on the grease, like that. You see how the butter kind of gets rubbed in and melted in, like that. Wow, awesome. It's really coming along. Now it's about time to take the rice off of the heat. And prepare it. Be added back into the stir fry. The rice is in these little bags, so I'm just going to set them down in a bowl and let them cool off for a bit. Now we're done with this pot. We're done cooking the rice, so we don't need it anymore. I'm going to kind of set it in the back here and focus on the stir fry pan, which is going to be where everything comes together. What a mess. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting up my zucchini and my onion in real thin slices. And then I'm going to cut it in half again to make it just like, little bite-sized pieces. You want to get a lot of surface area on everything so that all the different tastes and consistencies kind of bleed over a little bit. I'm not well trained with a knife in the kitchen, so this is not a good example of how a chef would do this, but it's still going to work just fine. Alright, I think our steak's just about done. Take it off the heat for a minute. And let's take a cut of this steak. Oh my god. Okay. Let's get another close-up shot here. So yeah, this is what a medium rare steak should look like. It's just a little bit pink on the inside, and it also has that brown crust. It's not totally black, you know, it's not like it's charred, but it's just a little bit burnt, like just a little burnt to give it a little bit more flavor without being like totally destroyed by the heat. Now the steak is going to go on this kind of platter here, and it's going to go in the oven while we prepare the stir fry for the next stage. So I'm just going to kind of plop it onto this platter like this. And I'm going to stick it into the oven, which is preheated to 500 degrees. This oil that's in the pan, it looks a little bit dirty, like it looks a little bit black. So I'm going to pour some of it off down the drain. We don't need too much oil, so some of that, I'm going to pour it off. Actually, most of it. And then I'm going to put a little bit more butter in, and I'm going to start frying our eggs. These eggs, I'm going to kind of do them like scrambled eggs. Just kind of like scrambled. The whites and the yolks are going to be almost congealed, but like still a little bit of variety, like a little bit of white, a little bit of yolk, and then most of it will be like kind of scrambled together. And the egg has to be really kind of like crushed up a lot into little pieces so that it mixes in with the stir fry. Turn the heat up. It should be sizzling at all times. It's sizzling stir fry. After the egg, I'm going to add the zucchini, and then the white onion, and the bacon, and finally the steak will come last. Because we don't want to overheat it too much or it's going to get a little bit dry. I have to keep wiping my hands off because they get so oily from all this stuff. Alright, so here's our eggs. Maybe good to get them a little bit burnt, but they're looking pretty good. After a while, this whole stir fry is kind of be like low heat, like just a little bit of heat. Maybe add a little bit extra of that burn, but we got a lot of brown in this, so we don't want to have too much brown, or it's going to taste dry and it's going to taste like really just like too much burnt. So we want it to be brown, but not too brown, kind of all around. ahead and add the bacon and the zucchini bits. And now also, I'm going to add some of this Three Dragon stir fry sauce. Haven't even opened it yet. But I can kind of estimate how much of this to add to the mix based on how strong the smell is. Oh, that smells so good. That was pretty generous amount of sauce. Yeah, it's great to have an appetizer you can get started on while you're cooking, or else you'll be hungry the whole time. And okay, these onions, it's got a little bit of black on the outside. I'm going to peel the skin off and then start kind of cutting up the onion. Don't want to add too much onions either, the whole thing will taste like onions. Oh, I don't want any of that. The outer side of the onion has like the rougher skin, and you don't want that to go in your food because it's like really rough, and you can't even chew through it because it's so tough on the outside. I'm gonna get these onions nice and diced up. I wish you could smell what I'm smelling right now, but YouTube doesn't have that technology yet. The stir fry pan, I'm starting to see these little black spots, so I'm going to move it back and forth between the heated burner and the off position, because we never want it to get too burnt. Like little pieces where it's black is fine, but never overburn. It's just gonna kind of all be like simmering together from this point. A little bit of onion drops down under the burner. And the sauce is designed, the stir fry sauce is designed to caramelize the vegetables and the egg and the rice. It's going to caramelize it just a little bit, so it has this like really different texture. It's not like gooey, it's not crunchy either, but it's like a caramelized onion. There's another shot of our mix in the stir fry right now. You can see these little black spots are starting to appear. Looking a little bit more brown. The slow simmering is going to boil off all the water, so we're left with this really gooey kind of like glaze. And when we dump the rice in, it'll start like steaming up. And it's really like an air freshener. Like the steam has this awesome like fresh smell in it. Really good to go ahead and add the rice now. It's about 3 cups of rice. It's 2 bags, so it's going to be about 3 cups of rice. I was totally like freestyling and like eyeballing the amounts of all these ingredients. So I have no idea like what this is going to be like when I finish, but based on the smell so far, it's going to be pretty good. Maybe I could have had less vegetables, but like more rice, but I'm going to add a little bit more butter. This is butter spread with a little bit of olive oil. It's starting to get kind of dry, so we don't want it to get too dry. We're going to put in more butter and a little bit more stir-fry sauce to keep things going the way we want. Going to give that rice a little color. More orange color, kind of. Now to turn the heat down a little bit and simmer that. Finish up with the steak. Steak coming out of the oven and onto the cutting board. I'm going to dump the excess grease off and down the sink here. And we're going to cut up this steak into little bite-sized pieces on the cutting board. Again, I'm no expert with a knife, but I'll be working on my skills soon. Trying to do all this stuff at once, I've made a really big mess here. And I'm going to be wiping down the whole counter and, you know, sterilizing everything because we've got some raw meat and all kinds of different stuff mixing together. So after we're done having our dinner, it'll be a big cleanup job. I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm just kind of trying to make sure I don't skimp on doing all these steps just right to get just the right amount of cook for the best flavor. And I can probably save like half of this and, you know, eat it tomorrow because this is a lot of food. It's a pound of steak, 3 cups of rice, 2 eggs. Probably more than I would usually portion for myself in a dinner. But cooking more at the same time, you know, it saves on your efficiency because you can, you know, cook for yourself the next 3 days and you got it all stocked up and finish it later. Alright, now our steak's all cut up like this. And I'm sweating, you guys. It's a good thing I have this beer because I got a hot kitchen going right here and I'm sweating. It's getting a little bit steamy. This is a lot of steak. Probably too much steak for this amount of rice, but you know, it's a steak dish. So I guess we're treating ourselves here a little bit with this. Getting close to the finish now. I'm gonna have another shot on my phone camera so you can see what we got here. So yeah, now we've got everything mixed together, onions, zucchini, bacon, steak, rice, and a lot of butter, and it's making this really like low, like sizzling sound. It's steaming a little bit, so it's probably close to done. We don't want to simmer it too much because it's going to get too dry, but when you simmer it, it gives you more of that gooey, like caramelized, just really rich taste. That's what makes this so good, is like all those different spices mixing together into the grease and the oil. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my plate, all these dirty dishes in the sink. Butter back in the fridge. Bacon back in the fridge. This is going to need to get wrapped up because it's cut open. And let's put the vegetables back in the bags that they came in. And they're going to go back in the fridge so that they can be used for another project later. There's the nub of the zucchini. We're going to throw that away because we don't need that. It's the stem. What a mess. I'm gonna take a paper towel and wipe up all this grease that's everywhere here on the counter. Now the only thing that's left is to plate it and put some secret sauce on and enjoy. A nice big plate here. Now, so I can really lock in on the taste that I want for this dish, I'm going to sit down here and kind of add the secret sauce and maybe a little bit more salt to taste. I like everything really salty. If you don't, then you can use less. Use less of the soy sauce, use less of the Chop House butter seasoning, use salt-free butter. But I like everything really salty, so I tend to like add a lot of that stuff and make it really rich, salty, and buttery. Actually, it tastes a little bit bland, so I might end up needing some more of that. Some more of that soy sauce, Three Dragons stir fry sauce, and maybe some more salt. Wow, forget what I said. This has so many layers. Like, you taste the sesame, the onion, like, really cook the rice just right. It's not crunchy, it's not gooey either. All these different ingredients, like, it's just like everything you want, you know, it's like everything you're craving. And let me get one more close-up shot. Here it is on the plate here. It's still steaming a little bit. But yeah, it doesn't get better than this, guys. It's fresh. Steak's a little bit rare. Rice a little bit burnt, not too burnt, just, you know, cooked right in the sweet spot. And the secret sauce ranch really, like, it's a little bit, it's cool. Everything else is hot, but the ranch is cool. So it's another, you know, it's another back and forth. There's hot and cold, and there's crunchy and gooey, and it's like, I can't even think straight while I'm biting into this because there's so much going on. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this video. Let me know in the comments how you, like, what would you do? Would you do it different? Would you use the cast iron pan? Like, would you add different vegetables? For me, this is like taking me back. It's like a time machine, because like we used to go to this hibachi grill like when it was somebody's birthday, and they made this dish like this, where they had like I could never figure it out because they use like these secret spices, and they use just the right amount of salt and butter. But I think the Three Dragon sauce really helped. Like the wine and the sauce gives it a little bit of robustness and something a little bit different. But yeah, if you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments if you want to see me do more cooking tutorials. If there's a dish that you recommend or you want me to try, I'll give it a go. But this was this was requested. A lot of people said I should start doing cooking videos, so I wanted to really make it a big production and do it just right, and I think this is going to be a success as long as there's not any weird errors with the video encoding and the upload. The sound, still kind of working out the kinks on all that stuff, but this is really like the appreciation of cooking. It's like when you do it just right, when it comes out just right like this, and a cold beer on the side, like the cold sauce going on top of this like sizzling hot steaming steak, like there's nothing else like it. Like, I would encourage you guys to try to replicate this at home because this came out just right this time. And I didn't think it would, or I wasn't sure that it would, but yeah, it's tasting really good. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Tune in next time. I'm D Money, and that's the end. Bon appetit.